What's good, everyone? OJ here. Welcome back to another video. Today, we've got some awesome information for you guys. But before we get into that, please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, and click that notification bell to get my videos first. And I appreciate everybody who's helping out doing that. Now, moving on to the first big topic here, the Nvidia Nintendo Switch 2. Looks like there was a massive leak that went down recently as a ransomware attack attacked Nvidia, and some information that Nintendo probably didn't want to get out was recently released, and it's heavily hinted that there could be a next gen Switch or Nintendo's next system that has some very interesting features and what that could do for Nintendo's games going forward in the future. So this article was written up on Nintendo Everything, and I'll have links for you guys. There's more information on Twitter as well. So Nvidia was hit with a cyberware, did I say ransomware? Cyberware attack last week. And while we won't get into all the details, a leak since then prevalent pertaining to a new type of Nintendo Switch system. Now, Tech Power Up has since come forward with a list of leaked files. Among them is an NVN2 folder, an apparent NVNDLSS driver, and possible files about T239. This is notable for the Nintendo Switch as a NVN is the API that Switch programs are written against. Nvidia developed the technology for Nintendo. Now, as for DLSS, that's again from Nvidia, as a type of tech that's involved with high power resolution / AI upscaling tech. Now, on a side note here, I've covered that multiple times on this channel. You can check out previous videos where I've discussed DLSS tech and how Nintendo can use it in the future. Now, getting back to it here, currently, it's not something that the Nintendo Switch can really take advantage of on its own. A new type of hardware would be required to take advantage of this DLSS technology. Now, it's said that the existence of an NVN2 folder as well as a DLSS driver could point to a new type of Nintendo device that's in development and pretty far along at that. Additionally, a Twitter user by Copite, who is known for Nvidia leaks, has been claiming that a new Switch is on the way with the chip T239, codenamed Drake. Ultimately, what we're dealing with here is a very interesting development, but not an official announcement. Fans can only speculate as to the meaning of this recent leak, with some believing that Nvidia is tinkering on a new Nintendo hardware with proper DLSS support. Now let's talk about this, because this was kind of a bombshell that dropped yesterday, and I wanted to discuss some of my thoughts on this and what this could mean for Nintendo going forward. But like, the first thing that was in my head was like, yeah, duh. Nintendo's definitely working on next-gen hardware or working on the next Switch. They've flat out pretty much said it in their investor meetings that they're looking at incorporating what they can do for the next-gen technologies. They just don't know when and how exactly and what features everything's going to be there. But I'm pretty sure that they're developing what they want to use. I'm pretty sure they want to use DLSS. They're going to have a stronger chip. They want to make a more powerful system that can get some of these other games on there easier and not have to have cloud versions or have so much support or so much problems trying to port to the Switch. So I think that's something that Nintendo's definitely working on, and that pretty much is what happens anytime a new system comes out. They're already thinking of ideas and what they're going to do for the next system. However, in some cases, especially with Nintendo Switch, I think they leaned on what they learned before. If they released the system too soon after the Wii U's failure, they wouldn't have been able to take advantage of a really cool chip at the time, which was the X1. Remember, the Nintendo Switch was supposed to be something completely different than what it ended up being, because they waited a little bit and because the right timing came about. So I'm pretty sure that Nintendo is taking their time, looking at what works, looking at what won't work for power draw, what won't work for price, how much RAM they can put in there. There's so many components and things that are needed in order to make a successful system. Heck, look at the Intellivision Amigo and the problems that it's having. So when you don't plan things correctly and when you sloppily put things together, it ends up being something that's going to turn out worse for the consumers. So Nintendo's definitely taking their time. They're going to look at the best options, and they're probably going to wait a bit more. And that's just my analysis over all of the decades that I've seen different systems rise and fall. I've seen companies come in with hardware that ended up not being what customers wanted. I've seen companies, even the biggest like Microsoft, rush to market, try to put out something super powerful and ended up blowing up in their face with the Xbox 360. So I think that Nintendo is going to take it slow at this point. They're going to make sure that they have what they need. And the biggest problem from what I see with some people saying, oh, well, it's something soon or it's going to be next year or something like that, is that the chip shortage. The chip shortage is definitely going to throw a wrench into any plans that they had for launching this anytime soon. And I think that Furukawa has pretty much stated that by continually saying, we're in the middle of the life, we're in the middle of the life, we're in the middle of the life when it comes to Nintendo Switch at pretty much every single, big investor meeting and stuff like that. So I think that Nintendo's going to wait a bit. They're going to obviously continue developing the tech, and they want to make sure that they get way better performance for price. And they also want to make sure that they can keep up with that battery life and everything else that consists of making a true hybrid platform. So I think that for right now, while this is awesome, it's something that's expected. I expected DLSS. I expected them to be working on a beefier Nintendo Switch or a next-gen Switch that can handle some of these newer games. And I think that once this next system does come out, it is going to be a porting ground for all of these PlayStation 4 and Xbox One games that didn't come over to the regular Nintendo Switch, and the ones, that did somehow come over, the impossible ports and everything like that, will be made a lot better with this new system. So we'll see what happens, but that's my analysis on it. I expected it. I think that this is something that obviously Nintendo's going to do because this is what companies all do when it comes down to it, but I don't feel that it's coming out anytime soon, and I don't think that it's a Switch Pro. I think that it is a next gen Switch, or Nintendo will market it or propose it as the next system, but also offer support for the regular Nintendo Switch, as the system is probably, at this rate and how Nintendo wants to do things, probably going to be right up there with the PlayStation 2 or surpass the PlayStation 2 as the best-selling gaming device of all time, and at its minimum probably be right there with the Nintendo DS in the ballpark range or pass it up. So those are my thoughts on this. What do you guys think about this potential big leak here with Nvidia and Nintendo? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys. I wanted to go over some of the big RPGs that are left for the Nintendo Switch in 2022. I put up a post on Twitter asking you guys what are your most anticipated or hyped RPGs, and you guys know me, this is an RPG channel. I love my RPGs, so feel free to comment below. Let me know what you guys think. What are you excited for, whether it's the Nintendo Switch or other systems as well? But I came up with these 4 games and one kicker as well. So the first up that's launching this week is Triangle Strategy, which we will have a little bit more information on in just a bit. But Triangle Strategy is launching this week, and I'm very excited for this game. It looks like it's going to have killer dialogue. It's going to have a great story, and the combat is just absolutely amazing. Now, if you're interested in this game, or you want to get interested in this game, there is a demo right now that you can download on the Nintendo Switch eShop that'll allow you to transfer over your save to the full release that comes out this week on March 4th. So I highly recommend to play that first, see if you like it, and if you like it, you can buy the full game later, or you can do whatever you want to do, but that game is available up to chapter 3, so plenty of content, pretty much the game for you to play, and I love when Square Enix does that, so you know I'm going to give them some love on a video here talking about it. Now, next up is Sea of Stars, another game that's really cool, retro inspired. This one is like by Secret of Mana and Chrono Trigger and the Super Nintendo games of old. It's still coming out for this year. It should be by the end of the year. We'll get more information as we go along. The Twitter account has been showing off little clips here and there, but I love Chrono Trigger. That is like my favorite game of all time, definitely my favorite Super Nintendo game of all time. So to see a game like this trying to have like the spiritual successor, the spiritual Chrono Trigger as a sequel or something like that, right? Not a real sequel, but as a spiritual sequel, it's really good to see that. So Sea of Stars is another game that I'm very excited for. Next up is the recently announced Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This is once again a surprise. I didn't think Gen 9 would be coming out this year, but it's coming out this year, and it's really cool that they're going to a real open world. Now, something that's been a hot debate point or topic has been, hey, how are you going to fight and catch based off of the success, the smash success of Pokemon Legends Arceus, which is still the #1 selling game on Amazon right now and one of the best selling games around the world, even more than a month after its release. And I think that that's something that we have to wait and see, because in the debut trailer, they never showed us any battling or catching. But what I'm excited about is the fact that they have a brand new art style, they have a brand new world, brand new Pokemon, brand new starters, and it's a open world game to where you're going to be able to see a living, breathing Pokemon world and actually have NPCs move around in the towns as we saw in the trailer and just be more livable and breathable and like live when it comes down to it, instead of being a bit more static like we've seen with their other attempts on the Nintendo Switch. So it's very good to see Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet take that next big step for the Pokemon Company and Game Freak. That game's coming out probably in November of this year. Next up is Live Alive on the Nintendo Switch as well. This game is looking to be really cool because it's a game that never came over to the US as a Super Nintendo game. So I was just floored when I first saw this game and I was like, what's going on here? Like, I've never heard of this game, but it's HD, 2D. Heck, I thought it was Octopath Traveler 2 when I first saw it, but no, it's a game that never came over, and now they're remaking it with the HD 2D engine, which is Unreal Engine 4, with their own techniques added in as well. Square Enix is definitely on a roll this year on the Nintendo Switch with the HD 2D content, so really looking forward to Live Alive, which is like multiple different games combined all into one game, and at the end or at some point it all connects all the stories. So very excited to play a very different type of game like this, and incredible that this game was even made for the Super Nintendo. That just goes to show you how great the Super Nintendo was when it comes down to it, the fact that a developer could make a game like this all the way back then. Now, last but definitely not least is Xenoblade Chronicles 3. What more can be said about the Xeno franchise? I mean, there's just so much that I love about it when it comes to the world theme, when it comes to the characters, when it comes to the combat. Xenoblade has been one of the best series that people have just continuously gotten more and more interested in as the years go along. And right now at this point, I think this is going to be the accumulation of everything that they've done in the past to make the best possible Xenoblade game ever with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The visuals are on point. I think that the designs of the characters are on point, and I think that the story is going to be on point by connecting the worlds of Xenoblade Chronicles 1 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and possibly even Xenoblade Chronicles X into the whole mix here. So very excited to tackle Xenoblade Chronicles 3 this September. But those are my picks, and I have more, but for the sake of time, I just can't keep going on here, but I could go on. But what are your most hyped RPG picks for the rest of the year? What do you guys think about the games that I talked about here? And of course, put that in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you guys have to say. All right, and moving on to the next topic here, guys. We do have brand new Nintendo Switch icons available through Nintendo Switch Online, and this kind of shows that Nintendo isn't quite done tinkering with the OS of the Nintendo Switch, getting some of these features that people have been asking for quite some time. People love the folders and the icons and the profile pictures and the themes, and while we don't have a lot of that stuff outside of the icons and everything and black and white for themes, I think that this is a positive move towards adding even more value to the My Nintendo program and also even the Nintendo Switch Online. So it's very good to see this, that they're expanding that Nintendo Switch Online app to where you can easily see everything that you do get with the service and continue to drive home that value with it. Now, I am going to go over an article here, Nintendo Everything with the B on it, talking about this new service with missions and rewards with Nintendo Switch Online and these new icons that you can get a hold of. So Nintendo has just detailed a few additions to the Nintendo Switch Online app on the Nintendo Switch systems. Specifically, they've updated the missions and rewards section on the app, adding a new set of missions to complete for platinum points, along with new user icon elements that can be purchased with those same points. The latter is particularly noteworthy as the last time new profile icons were made available to users was a system update back in November of 2020. So they went a whole year plus before adding any of the new icons, which is just somewhat disheartening for some out there. Along with these new icons being made available, Nintendo is also offering new backgrounds and frames that can be used to expand on the customization of user profiles. These new user elements will be available until April 4th, 2022, at which point they'll likely be switched out for a different set. For the first wave of icon elements, the focus is on Super Mario Odyssey and Animal Crossing New Horizons, with new icons, backgrounds, and frame themes around those games being made available. It's worth noting that while Super Mario Odyssey elements will be unavailable next month, the current plan for the Animal Crossing theme is to feature new icon elements each month based around the residents who have birthdays during that month. Additionally, as the service is offered through the Nintendo Switch Online app, a subscription to the service is required to access these new icon elements. Now, and I do want to talk just briefly about this because I think that there's a big opportunity for Nintendo to kind of even do a little bit more shadow marketing or kind of backside marketing with the different games. So if a new game that is coming out that's big, like Kirby coming out this month, or even a game like Nintendo Switch Sports, they can have these new icons that can be swapped in and out for those months. And if you play the game, you might get access to a special icon or things along that nature. So I'd really love for them to kind of implement that into it, and it'll actually make me go on my Nintendo Switch Online app and look at this stuff, because to be honest, I've always had a subscription, whether I buy it myself or Nintendo gives it to me, but I've never really explored that online app much. But I'm definitely going to do so because of this, because I want to see what they do. So it would be great, for example, when Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes comes out, we can get really cool icons based off of the characters from that game. Or when Xenoblade Chronicles 3 comes out, we can get characters based off of that game and custom icon sets that you can only get for the people who go on there in that time period. I think that would be really cool, add a little unique personal touch to it, and of course increase the value of the Nintendo Switch Online even just a bit more. So I like what they're doing here, but now they need to expand this to the folders and need to expand this to the backgrounds, to where you'll be able to kind of use Nintendo Switch Platinum points and get different backgrounds in games, or maybe even have a theme store. I think that there's a lot of possibilities with this, and I think that Nintendo's just scratching the surface. It's late with it, and it definitely should have came a lot sooner, but better late than never. I've always stated that. So what are your thoughts when it comes to this new Nintendo Switch Online icon program that's going on here? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, and moving on to the last topic here, I wanted to briefly go over some of the RPG goodness that I'm seeing on the Amazon sales charts and highlight one particular game that I'm very fond of that's launching this week, and that's Triangle Strategy. Now, I usually cover the Amazon sales charts every now and then when there's some interesting information, but for the last couple weeks or few weeks, it's pretty much just been Pokemon Legends Arceus dominating the new releases, dominating the best sellers. This game is selling insane amounts, and I think that the Pokemon update that they had for Legends, the Daybreak, is just going to continue to make it sell more and more. People saw that and was like, all right, they're adding content and it's for free. Okay, I got to pick up this game, plus all the good reviews and everything. So yeah, that's what's happening with Pokemon Legends Arceus right now. It's just doing incredible. Elden Ring is doing incredible. Gran Turismo has stepped into the fray here as well. But now we see Triangle Strategy as the 4th best-selling game on Amazon, rising up the charts. And why this is significant is because this is a strategy RPG. Strategy RPGs don't sell insanely well. There's been very few strategy RPGs, especially on console. I would say PC, it's a bit different market, but when it comes to console, there's very few that sell even more than 1 million or 2 million units. Fire Emblem Three Houses was one of the few games to break the 3 million unit mark, and I think that what you're seeing here with Triangle Strategy's rise on the Amazon sales charts and hype heading into it is because, one, people love Fire Emblem Three Houses, and I think that game kind of opened up a lot of people to the strategy RPG genre, along with Mario plus Rabbids. I think those two games have really brought forward the strategy RPG element. Triangle Strategy is getting a lot of love on the Nintendo Switch from those people that have played those games that probably never played a strategy RPG before those two games that I mentioned, considering the sales of strategy RPGs on consoles have been not very good, which is why you don't see a lot of high-end strategy RPGs on consoles quite a bit. Now, you see a lot in the indie scene and smaller type of game scene, but you don't see a lot of major developers doing that. So it's very good to see Triangle Strategy do well and show Square Enix that, hey, we would like Final Fantasy Tactics too if you want to make that and have two separate franchises that are awesome. Love to see Triangle Strategy do really well, and I'm hoping that more people definitely pick it up. So what are your thoughts on Triangle Strategy? What are your thoughts on the new Switch icons? Also, the Nvidia leak going on with the Nintendo Switch 2 or next-gen Nintendo Switch, and of course your most anticipated RPGs for the rest of the year. Let me know about all of that in the comment section below. All right, guys, that wraps it up for this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and we'll see you for the next video. Peace.